consider writing us in on your next deal. We want to serve you and your clients so we can continue doing trainings like this. We have a lot of very cool things, events coming up that we're working on, and just to bring you guys more value and different knowledge points and things that you can put into your business to grow this year and beyond. So we appreciate you all for joining us today. I'm going to hand it over to Jake. Without further ado, let's dive into some Canva.
Awesome stuff. I'm gonna go on ahead and share my screen real quick. Alrighty. Hopefully everybody is able to see that okay. I'm gonna kind of rearrange some stuff real quick and we'll be good to go. Um, Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to Canva for Realtors. We've got kind of a broad spectrum of stuff that we're doing today. Um, a little bit about myself before I get into what we're doing. Just like I assume the bulk of the rest of you, I am a realtor as well. I've got just about 4 years in the industry at this point. I've got pretty much every designation and certification under the sun from the NAR C2EX all the way through to ePro. And everything that I do in technology, a lot of the stuff that I do revolves around either real estate or production technology, which is why you see the picture of myself down there at a lighting console. And then I'm also interested in aviation, and I've got a big red truck as a fun fact of the day. So, jumping into this really cool class today, and it's really extra special because today is not a CE class, so I don't need my class rules slide. But this is a really good opportunity as a workshop format of a class to really be able to just get in and let me pull up the chat real quick. Get in and play around with what we do in Canva and really see how we can maximize what we're doing in the world of real estate. So, couple of things I plan on touching base on, creating different types of posts. We'll jump into flyers. We'll get into some single property sites and different things like that. But by all means, with any questions, concerns, anything like that that you may have, please feel free to unmute yourself, say something, or put something in the chat. I'll be watching that pretty closely, and we'll try and knock out everything that we can within the next hour. So, Canva is a really cool tool, as I'm sure you're all aware, not just for realtors, but for people in general looking to do graphic design and really have an easier time putting this type of stuff together as compared to most of the other tools out there. Canva is simple because it's got a lot of really good templates that are already put together. A lot of the stuff is just drag and drop, and then you can customize it to however you need it. Whereas other systems like Prezi, Photoshop, different systems like that aren't quite so straightforward and easy to use. So, this is an online and an offline graphic design tool. And what I mean by online and offline is that you can utilize this within the web browser. You can design stuff, save it, download it all within a web browser. Or they also have apps that you can get and just install on your desktop. You can get Canva for your phone. You can get Canva for your iPad, whatever the case may be. And you can work with this stuff in the browser and on the app. So, really cool system there. And we can use this to do all kinds of different stuff within different media types like images, videos, GIFs. You can create logos in here. You can create your social media posts, your flyers, your websites, your videos. You can edit your videos within this software. So it's a really cool piece of kit. Here's what we're going to go over today while we're at it. I'm going to show you the brand and design hub for starters. I'm going to show you how to create a just listed and just sold graphic. We'll take a look at utilizing some of our templates, utilizing different elements of various kinds, and then how to utilize some of the different apps within Canva. So I'll go ahead and jump out of here. And I'm actually going to switch over to my team real quick, just so that way you can see the branding and stuff that I've got going on and some of the really cool pieces of AI here. So, first and foremost, when you get into Canva, this is going to be the homepage that you see all of your different recent designs and different projects that you're working on putting together. And then they give you some ideas for some different projects you might be working on, like different documents, whiteboard stuff, your presentations. If you're using this for PowerPoints for your buyers and sellers, then this is a really good system for that. and your social media posts, so forth, just like that. Now, if I come over here on the side, or if I were to come over here to where the settings are at, either coming over here and clicking on this or clicking on the cog, I can get into my settings over here. And then we go back over here, get back over to my brand hub. Must have taken it out of my settings option. So within your brand kits, there's all kinds of different stuff that you can do. And this really helps set you up for success when you're putting your designs together. Really just helping you to pre-establish the colors that you're working with, the different logos that you have, and it really makes it easy to just drag and drop and really tune the designs that you're working with to all match up with each other in that sense. So if I take a look at the branding kit that I have set up for my brokerage and doing all the different stuff that I do, I've got all of my logos loaded in here. So all my different team logos, my designation and certification logos, even all the way down to the realtor and fair housing logos, different things like that. It really makes it easy to take this stuff and just drop it onto my design right where I need it. I don't have to go into my Finder on my computer and dig these files up every single time I need to use them. They're just going to be right here. And then what we have is called color palettes. So this color palette that I have set up right here are the brand colors that I intend on using for my marketing. And there's a lot of people out there that will go and just copy whatever their brokerage branding kit is. That's perfectly fine. There's people who copy down branding colors off of different businesses, or there's people out there that will copy down different brand colors off of, I don't know, one of their designations or certifications. But real quick, I want to show you something that I found the other day. If you're trying to figure out ideas for color branding, Adobe has this really cool system called Adobe Color. And you can come in here and pick a specific color that you want, and then it will match up all the different colors that look similar to it or would match along with it. So let's say you're right here and you want to go with something a little bit more yellow. There's a whole bunch of different colors that would match along with that. You can pick different themes based off of images that you have, different gradients, different things like that. And you can also look at this and try and figure out a nice contrasty color for your text and for your backgrounds that go along with it. It's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do there. You can explore the different color trends that are out there, how people are using the different colors, and you can even pull them straight out of images and just see what colors they're working with. But the important thing to have at the end of the day is going to be the hex codes when it's all said and done. So let's say, for example, we take a look at this image right here. All these different codes right here, these are the important things to have. Those are called the hex codes. And the hex code is the code that gets dropped into the color palette. It tells it the exact color that you're looking for. So say this red, for example, there's a million different reds out there. And there's a number of them that look extremely similar to this one, but they're not exactly this one. So that's why you have a hex code to really get everything down to the exact color that you're looking for. So I've got my red established. I've got my um, darker blue established. I've got my favorite cobalt blue, my black, my almost white, one of my light grays, and so forth like that. So you can have as many color palettes in here as you want to, and you can name them all whatever you want to. So if I name this my real estate brand kit, for example, just like that, that's one of my color palettes. And then if I have a second one that I want, then I can click on add new and I can add another palette, or I can also add guidelines for how I want the colors within my brand kit to get used. So maybe a specific color needs to get used for text and a specific color needs to get used for backgrounds, different things like that. There's a number of different ways that that could theoretically go. So if I click on add palette, then I can pull something straight out of Canva. They've already got a boatload of predefined color palettes that you can work with, or you can always try and search something up. So like maybe I want something gray, for example. Well, there's a number of different grays out there that you can play with. Actually, kind of like that one, so I'm going to add that one to my brand kit, or you can also add something manually by adding a custom color palette. And then every time you hit the add new color button right there, that's where you get the option to select a hex code, or you can also select a gradient, different options like that. But we'll stick with a solid color. Then you can just kind of face through your different color options right here. Let's say maybe we want to go with a little bit more of like a purple, just like that. But I want my purple to be a little bit more closer to black, and then we'll insert some white to that. So there you go. There's a very, let's call it washed out purple. Washed out purple, just like that. And then gradient's kind of a similar story, just depending on what colors you need. So you pick your starting color, and let's say you want it to start with a red, and then maybe your middle is going to be a little bit more like an orange, and then your ending color is going to be, I wouldn't recommend going with a green. You don't want to go with something that's like super clashy, but we go with like a washed out yellow. That could work. And now you've got this peachy sunset gradient that you can play with and do a lot of different stuff with. So we'll say peach gradient, for example, just like that. And we'll select that option. There we go. So that's how you would work with a color palette, lots of different options that you can do there. And then you scroll down just a little bit further and you can select which different fonts you would like to establish for your business. And you've got all these different types of fonts that you can set and establish here. You've got your title, your subtitle, heading, subheading, so forth like that. And you can add different text styles and different things like that. Now, the only caveat being really that once you have a custom font established with like your heading or subheading, something like that, you can't really establish another type of title or heading, anything like that. So it wants to know what it's going to default to. The cool thing about Canva is they've already got 6 million fonts loaded into the system, or at least what feels like 6 million fonts. However, over the years, I have come to find a handful of different fonts that they don't have in the system that I have used within my brand. And I can upload a font right here, and then I can just drag and drop by clicking add new, and then it'll try and pull something out of my computer, and it would get loaded in right there. Now you can also click on the manage uploaded fonts and you can see the ones that you have uploaded in your business. Those ones will appear in your brand kit too. Now, we'll get into AI a little bit further on, and Canva has some really cool pieces of AI and they're constantly evolving. They're evolving faster than the AI that Photoshop has, and frankly, I'd say this is significantly better than that. And it can do a lot of writing stuff for you, and you can establish a brand voice if you want to. I don't really use this to do my writing. I'd recommend ChatGPT a little bit more than this, but you can establish what your brand voice is like so that it knows how to mimic the way that you speak, your different tones, humors, different things like that. So take that into consideration. And then photos, graphics, and icons. Not really sure how icons is different from the logos and stuff that you can load in here, but you can upload your custom photos and custom graphics, and it'll allow you to kind of do the same thing with drag and drop into a design. So if I come back over here, Gabrielle, I just saw your question. With the colors, do I have to ask my broker for specific hex numbers or can I find it somehow from our webpage or logo? So with Adobe Color, like I was talking about, let me drag this back over here. First and foremost, before I go into that, a lot of brokerages will have a brand kit already established that you can copy the hex codes out of, just like I did with my brokerage. Let me see, was it create? Extract the theme. So if you take your brokerage logo or you have another image with the different colors that you're looking for, you can just take that and drag it and drop it over here into the extract theme option. And then that will bring in or give you the different hex codes that you need that will match up with whatever's in the image. So if you have something with maybe a dozen hex codes in it, it might not pull all of them out, but what it's going to go in and go look for is all of the prominent colors within the image that you've uploaded into the system. So you could either ask your broker for the hex codes, or you can just load it into Adobe Color and you can find them that way. So there's a couple of different options for you to play with there. All right, I'll go back over to my homepage real quick. And the game plan is to look at social media posts. We'll look at some stuff for open houses and different things like that. We'll take a look at some flyers and we'll take a look at website hosting through Canva. But while I'm at it, if anybody has anything specific that you'd like to see me go over or try and create, by all means, go on ahead and drop it in the chat or unmute yourself and let me know, whatever the case may be, so that I can make sure to cover what you're looking for. Now, when you're creating a design in Canva, there's a couple of different things that you can do to get started. You can use one of the magic recommendations right here, if you will. You can use one of the recommendations right here. So let's say I'm looking for a document style project. Maybe I need a whiteboard so that I can just draw some stuff, which you can do in Canva. Super cool. You can look at your presentations. So the stuff that's going on, like PowerPoint, different things like that. You can also do a mobile presentation. And then continuing forward here, they've got all your different social media post options. You can now edit photos in Canva. And I say now because you could do it in the past, but they didn't really have a lot of the tools that they have now at that time. So things have been getting upgraded over here pretty significantly. Then continuing forward, you can also edit videos in Canva. The video editor in here is somewhat basic. It works, but there are definitely some more professional systems out there that might have some better options. You've got your print products, and then you've also got websites that you can create and play around with. Nico, I see your message. I will get to that in just a little bit because I've got some that I've already created that I'll show everybody when I get to that point. So, what I usually do when I'm creating a design is I can either come right here and click on this button right here, just like creating a new tab in a browser. And by the way, I am working with the desktop app over here too. So let's say, for example, I wanted to look for an Instagram post or something like that. I would punch that in right here and then find the one I'm looking for. And usually the two options you would look at for a post is either the square option or the portrait option. And personally, I would recommend going with the portrait option. So if you look at the square as 1080 by 1080, but the portrait option is 1080 by 1350. 1080 by 1350 gets you a little bit of extra vertical screen real estate for you to play with and get on somebody's screen in that respect. So if I click on this option right here, this now brings me into the new tab where I go in to go and create the design. And usually, what I do to try and help myself with my creativity and get the ideas flowing, I can go on ahead and search for a specific template that I want. And it'll either pull in a template that somebody else has created, or it can also create something for me. So let's say, for example, I need a open house template, just like this. Now I'm going to get rid of the word template, so it'll give me more results. So you got to pay attention to how people would label this stuff within the template world. And sometimes within the real estate world in Canva, a lot of people will stick with the square design. So you may not have as many results that work for the portrait design within Instagram. But if we have this one right here, say this one, for example, I really like that one, then I can go on ahead and pull this one in. And then as soon as I pull this design in, it shows me the template style. So I can click on this and I can see all of the different, let me undo that. Didn't want it to shuffle. I can see all the different colors that it's using in the design, as well as the different fonts that it has in the design. And then when I get done with that, it also recommends a couple of similar templates. and it can recommend them based off of colors. It can recommend them based off of fonts. It can recommend them based off of similar designs. It's all AI based on how it recommends it. So lots of different options there. And it's not limited to just open house designs. If I come over here to a new tab, I can click on real estate, for example, and there's a whole bunch of different real estate options. So you have these two designs right here that I'm looking at. This guy that says just sold, this one that says just listed. These guys are both very similar in their design style. So just sold, just listed, different templates like this. And sometimes the text can get a little bit weird. And even though the font is way, way up here, the actual text box is down below. So you just got to kind of pay attention to that. The cool thing is with all this stuff, even though you're looking at images, you can put videos in here and it will animate all this stuff. It's a really cool system. But let's play around with this first design over here. So I have a couple of images that I've loaded into my uploads that we can play with in just a second, but let's play with what we've got on the screen. So first and foremost, you've got this banner right here. And usually when I have something like this, like the banner on the screen, this is where I'm going to drop my brokerage logo or some other information similar to that. So if I click on this, and you've got all these different options up here and all these three different text boxes, you can come up here and you can change the shape that we have up here at the top. So say maybe I don't want a banner, but instead I'm going to do a square, or I'm going to do a rounded square, something like that. And usually with a rounded square, what I would do is I'll go on ahead and click on all three of these guys, and then I'll drag these guys up here just like that. So it looks like a little bit more of a modern bookmark as opposed to a giant banner on the side of my post. And I can come over here, click on all three of these guys. I'm shift clicking on all three of these text boxes, by the way. And while I'm thinking about it, all three of these guys right now are single individual boxes. However, you can click on the group button, and that now makes them one giant group. So if I click away and then click on it, it's now one big thing. So if I want to resize the entire group, it's all right there ready for me to do that. Super cool stuff. But anyways, getting back to what I was doing over here, pretty much all of the different text boxes and elements can get adjusted in a very similar way. So I can come up here and click on the color of the particular element that I'm working with. And you can see it's now brought in all of the different branding kits that I have. If I need to swap between branding kits, like I've got two different branding kits loaded in here. I've got my brokerage kit and I've got the technology for real estate kit loaded in. I can click on whichever one I want to use for this specific design that I'm working on. Super, super cool stuff. So let's say I want to roll with this dark grayish blue that I've got loaded in to my real estate branding kit. I can now apply it to that. But what's really cool is it looks for the rest of the blues on this design that were similar in color, and it says, hey, do you want to change all of them? And you can either leave them as they are, or you can change them up, do whatever you want to do. In this case, I'll click on change all, and you'll see how the other blue elements have also changed. However, the text over here has not changed. And it's the exact same thing to edit that. But coming back up here, we do have the borders that you can place on these things too. Usually by default, they come without a border, but you can add one that's a solid line. You can add a large dash line. You can add small dashes, or you can do dots. You can also make that border a little bit thicker if you want to. So you get it to this point where it's not really even much of a border anymore, but it just looks kind of interesting. So take it back to a 10 like that. Maybe I'll do just a straight line. Usually I'll have it hanging between a 4 and a 6 just because I don't want it to be too big. And then once I have a border selected, this little option right here has shown up for me to change the color of the border. So I can come over here, click on this, and change that to white. There we go. Now we've got a little bit of a contrasting border on the edge of that particular element. So there we go. We're all good to go there. Now, taking a look at the text in the design, If I come down here and click on the title, for example, I can do the exact same thing, come up here and change the text color. I can change the font. I can change the size. It's very similar to working with a Word document or something of that particular caliber. So let's say I want to go with a font that maybe is a little bit bolder, or I can pull something out of my branding kit. I'll go with my, let's say my Market Deco font in this case. It's usually is kind of a little bit clashing in my opinion, so I probably wouldn't go with that option. But for the sake of demo purposes, it gets the point across. And then I can bump up the size a little bit if I really want to make that pop out. And then I'll come over here and I'll change that so that it matches this grayish blue right there. And boom, now it all matches up with the rest of the other dark blues that I've got in this design. So you usually want to try and get your fonts and your text to all match up as well as you possibly can. You don't want to go too big on the text, you don't want to go too small on the text, but it all works out when it's all said and done so long as you get the design put in there correctly. So continuing forward from that, you can make your text bold, you can italicize it, you can underline it, and some of the stuff you can even do strike throughs on. Now you see text up here just like this where it's all caps. You have this option right here to change it between uppercase text, lowercase text, different things like that. Now you do have to bear in mind there are some fonts in here that are going to be fully uppercase no matter what you do. And it also goes down to however the person that created the design or yourself punched it into the system. If it gets punched in full and complete caps lock, then it's going to be full and complete caps lock no matter what, unless you erase it and then bring it back in. Now you can add some effects to the text too. So by default, it'll come in with no effect on it, but you can also, let me select this guy down here because there's a little bit easier to see that. If you click the shadow option, you can see if I zoom in so y'all can see this a little bit better. You can see now it's got a shadow on it. You can change the offset of the shadow so that way, it looks like it's getting further away from the actual backdrop of the design. And then you can change the direction that the shadow is in. So let's say, for example, if you had this image right here up top, it was a very sunny image and it looks like it's casting light down onto the word features right there, then you can change the direction so that it matches the direction that the sun is coming from. And then usually you don't want to have a huge offset when it comes to shadows, but do with that what you will. If you don't want it quite so sharp, then you can also change the blur behind it. So that way it gets a little bit softer and might be a little bit easier to look at. You see how that's getting sharper and softer as I change that along. And then you can also change the transparency of it. So you go full transparency right there, you're not going to be able to see much of a shadow. It just looks like two text boxes stacked on top of each other. So change it up like that. Usually a 40 is pretty good, but I digress at that point. You have the option for a lift. So this just kind of makes the text pop out from the page just a little bit. Kathleen, yes, you can add a filter to a picture. We will get to that momentarily. The intensity of the lift just changes how much of a drop shadow, if you want to call it that, shows up behind it. Then you've got your hollow and your splice, which is very similar to the hollow, but it's got a drop shadow behind that. And then you can do an outline, which is super cool because you can select a different color for the outline on your text. And you can change the thickness on it so it'll pop in like that. If you're doing something for kids, having a thick outline might not be a bad thing, but you're trying to stay professional here, so maybe not quite so much. So you can go like that, and now you've almost got Boston Red Sox colors, if you will. You've got your echo right there, so it creates multiple, not multiple sections of text there, but it's just multiple shadows. And then you've got a glitch option, which makes it look like you're wearing 3D glasses. Kind of cool. Your neon option, super cool, just like that. So it gives you white text, but then whatever the color of the actual text is the glow that comes out behind it if you bump that intensity up to 100%. Or you can also run a straight background behind it. So you can change your color, you can change the roundness of it if you want it to be more square or more of an oval, change your spread depending on how much of a backdrop you want on it. And then you can also change the transparency on it too. And of course the color, but that's kind of a no-brainer. And then curves. Curves can get very interesting depending on what you want to do, but you can take it and bump it like that. You can bump it down same way. Usually I leave that turned off unless I'm doing like a ballpark design or something of that caliber. But let's go on ahead and reset that. All right, so backing out of this, Kathleen, for the sake of your question, I'll go on ahead and show you the filters on the photos. When you click on a photo that you have in a design, you can come up here and click on the Edit Photo button, and that is where you start to get to some of the filters that you can use in the system. So you can use the background remover, which I'll show you a really cool use case scenario for that at the end of the class. You have the magic eraser if you want to get rid of something in the image. If your image isn't quite big enough or you need to add some extra substance to it, they have what's called the magic expand. So let's say, for example, yeah, that image won't work. But if you wanted to expand an image and add more of a background, so make the image wider or maybe make it taller, just like we see in Photoshop, you can also do the same thing over here. So make the image bigger at the end of the day. You have the magic edit, which I'll also show you at the end of the class. You've got your magic grab, so you can grab different elements in the image, and it works decently well. Not a perfect science, but it works. And then you can grab text in an image too. So really cool different elements there. And then they've got all your different effects here. You've got your shadows, you've got an autofocus that you can play with. So if you want to, I don't know, take your background for a specific subject, usually a portrait, something of that caliber, that's what you're probably going to, uh, probably what you would try and use this autofocus filter on. You can retouch faces in here. You can also do the blur. Blurs are really good if you're doing something for like a background and it's kind of a similar effect to that autofocus, but you're doing an entire image or a section of an image as opposed to trying to get the image to focus on a specific subject. And then duotone, just like what you see here. If you click on that, you can see all the different types of duotone that you can put onto an image. Really pretty straightforward there. All right, so getting into the elements, you've got all these different tools that I've recently used, or different images. I guess they are kind of tools. First and foremost, you have shapes. So you can click on this option right here, and you can see the different lines that they have available, the different shapes that they have. So, like squares, arrows, stars, different things like that. And you can get them into your design by either clicking on them and letting them just appear in the image, or you can also, let me click off of that, drag and drop it into the image. Now, these shapes are pretty cool because there's a couple of ways to resize them. You can either grab one of the sides and you can drag it out, drag it in, or you can grab a corner and drag it around like this too. So you can really get exactly what you're looking for. It's kind of the same thing that we see right here. You can drag this around, resize it however you want, do what you will with that. Then next up is your graphics, and it's going to give you some magic recommendations based off of stuff that you've recently looked up and tried to use. There's also some different featured graphics that are commonly getting used right now. They have some gradients available, very similar to what we see in the brand hub. And then they've also got some stickers. So just like we see with Instagram stories, Instagram reels, stuff like that, if you were to create your Instagram reels in Canva, then you can do all that stuff over here. Just drag and drop your stickers on there and keep on moving forward. So, say for example, I grab a random, I don't know, let's grab this soda can that I was using. Click on that, and it's now in the image. I can take it and resize it over here, and then boom. Now it's where I want it. But let's say maybe it's not in the layer that I want it to be on. I can come up here and grab the position button, and I can change what layer it is. I can tell it to go backwards, go to the very back, or the easiest way is to come up here and click on the layers option, and it'll show me all the different layers that I have in the image. So if I take my soda can, drag it down here, right under the image, you can see it's now behind it. So that's how you go about doing that. You can edit the image just like I was showing earlier. You can crop it, you can flip it, and you can also add a border to it just like this image has. And you can animate it, you can edit the transparency on it. So transparency, if you don't want it to be in its full opacity, different options like that. Keeping on going with the elements, the AI image generator is super cool. My favorite design that I like to play with or just demonstrate. So let's say we have a neighborhood in Phoenix in a, I don't know, let's say rainstorm. Just like that. Kathleen, you can theoretically pull an empty room in here and stage it. What you might want to do is some of the AI stuff and tell it to generate different furniture in the room. However, there are better systems out there for doing that at the end of the day, if I'm being honest with you. Um, there's actual AI systems that are built for doing that that would be a better substitute and a better use than Canva, but that's a story for a different class. So we've got these different images that I just generated based off of the criteria that I punched in. And just like any other image, I can take it and drag it and drop it in wherever I want it. I guess this one is rotated, so we'll go on ahead and get rid of that. I see now why it was having issues. Come over here just like this. Position, we'll take this one back to the back, just like that. Boom, there we go. So now that AI generated image that I have is now in my image or now in my design. So depending on the criteria that you're looking for, it'll give you what you want. Sometimes you have to get super specific, but you can definitely tell that it's AI generated, especially when you look at the rooftops here, or if you look at the funky looking cars on the side, that's a really telltale sign. And you can also do a video or something like that. So if I do the exact same thing, neighborhood in Phoenix in the summer. This AI technology is still new, so they're still working on getting this stuff perfected and really built up. It's not a perfect technology just yet, but it still is getting the job done nonetheless. While we're at it, waiting for this thing to generate, I will go on ahead and show you how to resize an image. This button right up here called resize and magic switch is how you take this and resize it into a different project. So let's say, for example, I wanted to take this and turn it into, I don't know, a piece of paper or something like that. So we'll go with a document, US letter portrait, just like that. Click on continue. And then you can either take this specific design and resize it, or what I recommend that you do is copy it and resize it. So that way you retain the original document and then you still have the upsized or downsized one, whatever the case may be. Now, bear in mind, this doesn't always translate everything over 100% perfectly. So sometimes you have to go in. Let me open this up just so you can see. Sometimes you have to go in and go move some of the elements around just to get it perfected. Like our soda can wasn't quite this high up in the design that we have over here. You didn't see quite as much of it. So you can just take the image and drag it back up and get it back into the proportions that it was in. Or something like this, for example, where you need to move your text around as well as the box that's on it, drag it down just like that. There you go. And then even something like this down here at the bottom where it didn't quite drop itself perfectly at the bottom of the image, you can just drag it back down and you've got a pretty similar design to what you were working with. Usually, what I would suggest is that you're going to want to try and resize it into something of a similar proportion. So if you're using something like this that's a little bit more of a rectangle, try and turn it into something that's a rectangle. So whether it be a social media graphic gets turned into a piece of paper or whatever the case may be. So looking at this now, we've got a new video that has been generated by AI. Let's see how this turned out. Oh, that is some absolutely riveting content now, isn't it? Neighborhood in Phoenix in the summer. Say like neighborhood in Phoenix in a monsoon. And we'll go on ahead and let it do its thing right there. So if I come back over here just to finish out what we're doing with the elements, we went through stickers. Photos and videos are very similar to work with over here. If I click on photos or something like that, it's got a number of different trending images, but then it's also got some of its magic recommendations, and it's going to pull in those magic recommendations based off of images that are already in the design that you're working with. So if you're working with a design that's about real estate, it's going to pull in images that are similar and about real estate. So that's what you would do with that over there. Let's say, for example, we come back up to this design. We're going to get rid of our monsoon house, and we're going to use this picture of a bed, master bedroom, or whatever the case may be as our primary photo there. Then drag and drop just like that. And what's cool about all this stuff is all of these different elements that I'm dragging photos on, you can drag videos into, and they'll do the exact same thing. It just turns it into an animated graphic as opposed to a still image file. So really cool stuff. I'll show you how the videos work. By the way, dragging and dropping stuff out of here is very similar to the process of dragging and dropping stuff out of your uploads photo folder. It's the exact same process, just flows slightly different because it's photos that you're finding through the Canva system versus photos that you've uploaded. So videos, if I come over here and I click on a house, for example, click on a house, search for a house. You've got different videos of like neighborhoods, different things like that. If I drop that in, there we go. It's now animated as opposed to just a still graphic. So really, really cool. If you're doing something with drone stuff and you've got a super white blown out sky, just like this has, then you can always take this background and you can use the color dropper to try and match the color that's right there. So if I click on background color and then click on add new color, then pick a color from the design, I'm gonna pull this out right there. It's not gonna make a ton of change. It's very, very similar, but now it really allows things to just kind of like blend in, and it looks like everything from right here on up is now a part of the video as opposed to just the video in and of itself being a thing. So kind of a word salad, but hopefully that makes sense for everybody here. Then just like on Instagram, they do have audio loaded into the system. So if I go on ahead and share audio real quick, bear with me for a second. I'm going to share my computer sound. If I click on any of the audio in here, let's say I go, oh, give me something upbeat, something fun. Got this inspiration here. I can click on this and put this in the design, and you can see how it's now layered itself on there. So I'll click on pause, and I'm gonna want to go in to go preview what it looks like as an actual video. I can click on the play button right up here in the top, and it's now going to go on ahead and preview what it looks like with the music on it, with all the videos and different images. And if I animate stuff, it'll populate in here too. At this time, if I'm happy with my design, I can get it downloaded, but I'm not going to do that right now. Suzanne, as far as I'm allowed, or as far as I know, you are allowed to use the music out of Canva. I'm not sure what the copyrights are behind it, but if you have a subscription to the system, you're allowed to use it. I've never run into any issues with like YouTube or Instagram and pulling audio out of here, but there are also other really good resources for downloading audio, and then you can upload it into the system and it would work just as well as any of the audio that's in here. So, yeah, I haven't run into any issues with copyright or anything like that. But don't take my word for it. There's probably something in here that's copyrighted, but I just haven't run into any problems with it in particular. So that's the bulk of the elements that you would work with in real estate. Lastly, down here that I want to show is frames and grids. So frames and grids are probably the next most common element that you would work with. And it's very similar to dragging and dropping an image onto a screen, except you're just dropping something that an image is going to slide into. So let's say I get rid of our video here and I'm going to change some stuff up by taking this and dropping it right here. And I'm going to go all the way up. Just like that. I'm going to send it back to the back. Now, any image that I take and drop into here, or video, as the case may be, will automatically snap into this frame. So if I, for example, took this picture of some cactus, for example, I can drag it and drop that right into here, and that's now going to snap into that frame. So that's what the frame looks like. And then there's various different grids, which is essentially multiple frames just established in a grid format. So 2 frames, 4 frames, 6 frames, redfish, bluefish, kind of the same concept there. Within the frames, there's all these different shape options that you have. So you've got your basic shapes. The most common that you'll probably use is a standard basic square or a circle. Circles are really big in the graphics designs right now. If you're going for something a little bit more nostalgic, there's always film options, photo options like that. You do have devices. So I'll show you what I did for my business card when we wrap things up in just a few minutes. And those things are really cool frames, different shapes, different letters, numbers, different things like that. But we'll keep it moving for the sake of time over here. And it does look like our video has finished exporting and getting generated. So there you go. There's your neighborhood in Phoenix in the middle of a monsoon. Super cool stuff. All right, so just a few more designs to showcase what they look like. Let's say you wanted to generate a flyer from the ground up. Make sure you pick the correct one. Most of the time, an open house flyer is going to be a 8.5 by 11 portrait. Go on ahead and click on that. And there we go. There is your blank template for a flyer. And just like I would look for a template for a social media post or any other design that I'm working with, I'll just come up here and go on ahead and search for whatever template I need. So let's say I need an open house flyer. Some of these guys will have more than one page to them, and you can see that. Let's see if there we go. You can see that when you hover over it, and it'll say one of 2 pages, 2 of 2 pages, so forth like that. And then once you pull up the design, you can either pick one page to apply to your design, or you can also apply both pages to the design too. And some of them are not built for an 8.5 by 11 flyer template. So sometimes they have to resize themselves, which they do automatically to the best of their abilities. But then there's other times where you just got to take these images and like drag them out so they fill in as they're supposed to, move some of the elements around. It's not entirely uncommon. So other similar designs to that, it's all open house related stuff. There's different like travel flyers, event flyers, different things like that loaded into Canva that you could create. Let's say real estate flyer. We'll just go with real estate. There we go. Suzanne, do you mean like, do I have one that I use or one that's in the system already that you can use? And when you say newsletters, do you mean like email newsletters or print out newsletters? That's my question here. If you've got your loan officer, there's a really fun flyer that you can generate for them or they can generate for themselves. Right here, that's what that would look like. And you can always follow the person that created the template and just see what their similar templates are if they have a flyer or a style that you really like. then generally speaking, you're going to want to stick with that. So really, really cool stuff. Me going ahead and back out of here. So Suzanne, let me pull something up here real quick. What we do have is newsletter, stuff like that. So newsletter, it'll pop in as an 8.5 by 11 if you're looking at that specifically. Or if you want to generate an email newsletter, they're usually two different things. What I would do is start out with the email newsletter and then probably resize it into a document, for example. Great question, Christy. Let me get back over to something real quick and I'll get that question answered for you. So, say for example, you want to use this template. This is a little bit more of a flyer, but that could still work for an email newsletter. And they've got some other stuff that works really well, kind of like this one. So if I add this in here, then you can add this and make this into a newsletter. You can also resize this one into a website pretty fairly easily. But let me go on ahead and jump into an Instagram post real quick just to make this easy. All right, I need an aerial photo. Aerial photo of land. So this isn't going to be perfect, but I'll just kind of like give you a rough idea of what you can do in the system pretty fairly easily. See, I'll just go on ahead and yeah, I'll roll with this one. So we'll stretch her out to size, kind of like this. Actually gives me a decent size parcel to work with too, for that matter. So I'll take it. All right, so you can either come back over here to the elements and then you can drag and drop shapes on here. Or if you come over here to the side, you have options to draw different things on here. So if I wanted to draw this right here, forgive me for my not so good and not so straight lines. I can trace around the property edge like that, which is kind of sloppy. That's why I suggest using an actual line. And then you can adjust your settings in here, make it a little bit thicker if you need it to be. And you can also adjust your transparency of it. But I would recommend personally just using the lines in here. So let's say I make that line red. I'm going to go on ahead and get rid of this. We'll rotate this to match the edge of the property here. Once again, not a perfect science, but it gets the job done. Then you can just drag it, drop it like that, and then copy and paste it. Except we're going to take this one and drop it down here like that. And then it'll kind of snap into place. So these things can get kind of fun at times, but yeah, that's probably what I would recommend to do. If you're not going to take the pen tool and physically draw that in, that's probably the best way to go about doing that. All right, so I'll touch base on websites real quick, and then I'll get into a couple of the projects that I've done, and we will wrap this thing up. So websites are super fun. Let's go on ahead and create a blank website. And then just like all the other templates that you work with, you can select a real estate website template, which just like you could do in Breakthrough Broker and other systems like that, we'll go on ahead and select that option over here. So we'll say real estate, just like this. And if you have a specific website template that you really like, then that's great. You can go on ahead and select it. Or let's say house for sale, something like that. Nope, no good templates there. Yeah, let's roll with this guy right here. So you can see all the different pages that they have built up within this template. And of course, you can always create something from scratch. Never feel like you have to use something that's already put together. I usually like to use templates just to get my feet running and hit the ground running. But let's say I find this one template that I really like. I'll go on ahead and click apply all 7 pages. And it's now dropped all 7 of those pages in right here. And editing this thing is the exact same thing as editing any other post or design or anything like that in the Canva system. So super, super cool stuff. Once you have a website put together how you like it, you can preview it right here. And this is what it would look like if it were on a desktop. So it's got all the animations applied to it. It's got your different buttons that you can attach links to. Really cool stuff. And then you can also publish and host the website through Canva too. I believe it doesn't cost you anything extra in order to do that. So you can add navigation to your page and do different stuff like that if you want to. So I'll go on ahead and leave it at that. I did have one person asking me about email banners and stuff like that. And creating an email banner is the exact same thing as pretty much anything else. You just find the template that you're looking for. No, email banner. There we go. So email banner, or you can use an email signature at 400 by 200 pixels. That's what I was looking for, not a banner, a signature. You can click on that and it'll create a template for you. Or I've already got a couple of different ones that I really like that work pretty well. This is the email signature that I have. This one, I believe, is 600 by 400, if I remember correctly. Something like that. Or no, 600 by 200, I think. So 600 wide by 200 tall. And these are the different elements that I have pasted on it. And I did actually use an email header on this thing. That's why it's a little bit funky, but it also got me a little bit more space to work with within this design. So just drag and drop all your information on here. And if I click on a new page, let's say email signature, something like this. This is the template that I used to create it, and then I applied my branding colors, applied my own images, different things like that. But let's say, for example, you wanted to go with Morgan Maxwell's design right here. There you go. So you can drag and drop your image into this circle frame, put your own name on here, your own business title, and then your contact information, whatever you need can go in right there. And then once I got done with this, I also came over here and created this custom wire transfer fraud alert. Um, just so that way I've got both of these things on my email signature. My signature goes on top of this, and then wire transfer fraud right under it. And this one I believe is like 600 by 150, something like that, something really simple. This is really easy to put together. All this is a red background with a caution sign on it and then just a bunch of text. You can put this together in about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, something like that. So it doesn't really have to be super complicated. If I take you guys over here and I'll look at my business card designs, going ahead and pull this guy up. So this is the business card that I have. So this is the front of it. I've got a profile picture of myself that I have knocked the background off of, and then I just drop a custom background into the business card and roll with that. Got a blue rectangle over here on the side that I've adjusted the transparency on, so that way I can see the background behind it, and then just layer my text on top of it. But then I also put myself on top of that rectangle, so that way it adds a little bit of an extra 3D effect. Now, I was talking about using some of the device frames and stuff like that in here. This is what it looks like to use an iPhone frame on that design. So if you drop this on here, you can drop an image into it, do whatever you want to do with that. It works pretty fairly well. While I'm thinking about it, before I forget, the one app that I want to show you in Canva, among the many other ones that are out there, is called Dynamic QR Codes. So we'll go on ahead and accept that permission. So you can come in here and select whichever template you feel like you want to use. Say maybe I want to use this guy right here. So I've got this template picked out, and then I can go on ahead and punch in whatever website I want it to go to. So www.jakeyoungs.realtor, for example, like that. I can also drop a logo right in the middle of it. Unfortunately, when it comes to dropping a logo into this QR code, the thing that stinks is that it can't pull something out of your uploads in Canva. You've got to upload something from your computer. So it all works out pretty fairly well. And then you can change the colors of your QR codes. You can change your background if you even want one. And of course, you can do a transparent background just like I have on this one. And then once I get this dropped in right here, boom, there we go. My QR code is now created and loaded into my design. So do with that what you will. I've got one last trick that I'll show you guys before I wrap this one up. Ketty, to answer your question, I'm not entirely sure within the Rock University if there's another place to do Canva, but we do have a pre-recorded option of this over at Tech for RE. So if you wanted to jump in and do that, that would be the place to go and do it. So for those of you who are probably wondering how I created my custom profile photos with removing backgrounds and stuff like that, I'll show you how I do that. I usually go with a square option, so that way if I've got to load my image into a circle frame or something like that, it's really easy to center myself on it. I've got my uploads over here, including all my AI generated graphics and stuff like that. I've got to scroll back down a little bit to get back to my profile picture. The best thing that you can do is use something that's got a white backdrop on it. That way, it makes it really easy for the AI system to decipher where exactly you are versus where the background is that you're getting rid of. My goodness, I didn't realize I've loaded this much stuff into my Canva system recently. All right, so we've got all this stuff. Give me just a second, guys. I'll answer the questions in the chat. So I've now dropped my image on here. I'm going to double click on it and then reframe where I'm at. So I've got my image loaded in here, and then I come over here and click on edit photo. And then what I'm going to do is click on the background remover. It does all this stuff automatically. Suzanne, we do this class as pre-recorded. It's at Technology for Real Estate, so techforre.com, the place where I teach over at. So now the background has been removed from this image. I'm going to grab my image and I'm going to drag it down just like that so that when I drop a backdrop in here, it's not going to override the image that I just removed the background on. So let's say I punch in a luxury kitchen, something like this. I'm going to use a photo, or you can use a video for your background. There's just not many uses for a video as far as profile pictures go. So let's say I want to use this kitchen right here. Then I need to position you to the back. Boom, 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 boom. There you go. There's your profile photo with a custom background on it. So with that being said, that's kind of what I got for you guys today. That's about as much as I can knock out in a 1 hour time span. So if y'all have any additional questions or concerns, feel free to shoot an email over to me. Let me get back over to my PowerPoint and I'll throw that up on the screen for you guys. This whole thing gets run through Canva, by the way, all my PowerPoint slides and stuff like that. But there's my contact information handy for you guys if you need to reach out to me for anything. Canva is a little bit of a learning curve. Don't get discouraged if you're using it and haven't quite caught on with everything. It takes a little while to really get used to it. My best recommendation is just get in there, play with it, get comfortable with it, and you'll really get to like it as time goes on. So, contact information on the screen if y'all need to get a hold of me. But in the meantime, want to give you all a huge shout of thanks for joining in for today's class and hope you all got something good out of it. Have a great day, everybody, and stay techie out there.
Thank you.